Hey everyone, it's Chris from HashRelay.net, bringing you another end of the day market update. Today we see the global market slip down underneath that $400 billion mark, down to $391 billion. Daily trading volumes, almost $23 billion. Bitcoin has brought its dominance back up to 35%. Still holding onto that $8,000 price tag. Ethereum's still at $800. But we can see that we've got a fairly negative trend for the day. Double digit down most of the coins. If we head over to on-chain FX, we can see that only 5 coins are still above the 50% down from all-time highs. So it looks like the bear market continues a little bit. Prices are still on pretty good sale. If we go to the charts, we can see that Bitcoin had broken out of this downtrend line, but subsequently dipped back below it. The negative pressure from this should push it probably back down to this long-term uptrend line at a price tag of around $6,000. So we're going to want to see a hold above the $7,500 line for some consolidation, but if it gets below that, chances are we'll be getting back down to this uptrend line here. You can see that the volume has tapered off quite significantly for the day. On the MACD, we did come up and test this line. With the current negative trend, we may fail that test and come back down below the yellow. The histogram's got some very short bars on it, so we want to see it cross over to get some bullish signal here. And we can see that the RSI is curving back down towards that 30 line. We want it to bounce off that at the very least. Here in Ethereum, you can see we lost this short-term uptrend line, but we've still broken through the short-term downtrend line, so not a terrible signal. We'll probably consolidate over to this intersection here over the long term. We do get a bit of a flattening out on the MACD, but we can see the tail starting to form a little bit further south. If the divergence from this yellow line gets any further, we'll probably see the start of the uptrend on this histogram reverse itself back down. On the RSI, it's kicking back down towards that 30 level. Moving on to Litecoin, much like Ethereum, it has broken out of its long-term downtrend line, but it also broke out of this short-term uptrend line. So we want it to hold above this downtrend line. Chances are it could trade in between this channel here for these two uptrend lines. Did get a minor crossover on the MACD that's still holding true. Another tiny bar above the zero line on the histogram. The RSI, much like Bitcoin and Ethereum, is angling down towards that 30, and we want to see it pick back up. NEO is also having some continued resistance, downward pressure from this former all-time high and the short-term downtrend that it's experiencing. It's still above this first uptrend bar, still quite a ways above this long-term uptrend. So we want to see it hold this pattern, consolidate over to this intersection here at worst. But the indicators are showing a little bit of a increase in the divergence from this yellow line on the MACD, getting a little bit of a longer bar on the histogram today. Angling down towards that 50. We haven't yet broken through. We want to see it bounce off of that. Moving over to Steam. Still holding in line with this uptrend, but the negative bars Negative bars here with the pressure from this long-term downtrend line could push it south. We want to see it hold that line at least into this intersection where it'll have a better chance to break through this downtrend line. The MACD, still a fairly narrow channel, still south of that yellow line, however. Again here on the RSI, we're seeing it dip down towards this 50 line, and we'll want to see it bounce off for some positive confirmation. Komodo looks like it's continuing its consolidation in this channel here between the uptrend and downtrend. It's very narrow here on the MACD, so we want to see it push up and at least test it once again to try and break through. And that'll be the second testing of it, and usually if it fails on 2 tests, the third time is a higher probability of breaking through. Angling down away from the 50 line on the RSI, getting closer to the 30. And this has actually been a fairly long downtrend line on the RSI as well, so we really don't want to see it get to the 30 at all. We would like to see it pick back up and get to the 50, but worst case scenario, we definitely want to see it bounce off the 30 rather than go below. Bitcoin has consolidated right against this downtrend line, so if it gets a little bit more strength in it, it could break through this long-term downtrend, which would be an excellent sign. But it'll still have a lot of pressure from this long-term downtrend line up here. It's gonna have to make some significant moves if it wants to correct itself from these previous prices up here. But as long as it holds this long-term uptrend line, then we shouldn't get too bearish on Vertcoin. Quantstam's had a pretty negative past couple of days. You can see it fell under this long-term uptrend line, or I guess this mid-term uptrend line. Dipped quite a ways away from this downtrend line, and so we'll expect to see it consolidate over to this intersection here. You can see that we came up and tested the yellow line on the MACD, but it looks like we're about to fail as it's coming back down. We're getting a slightly longer bar on the southern side of the histogram, and the RSI has taken a pretty strong curve back down, currently underneath that 50 line. We want to see it pick back up above that. Lumen, much like Quantstamp, is coming right up into this channel here for the intersection, following this short-term downtrend line quite nicely. We want to see it meet this corner and continue on up this uptrend line here, but again, it's got some strong downward pressure from this long-term downtrend line. Narrow channel south of the yellow line on the MACD. Maybe starting an uptrend on the histogram, but fairly flat at any rate. We're still hovering right around the 50 line on the RSI. We want to see it bounce up off of that and not dip down towards that 30 line. Cardano's in a good position to break out of its longer term downtrend line here. If it continues on up this uptrend line, tomorrow should see it break through that. What we don't want to see is it lose this uptrend line, because then it will likely trade in this negative channel here until it reaches this longer term uptrend line. So we definitely want to see it break out of the downtrend and continue on this uptrend line here. Very flat on the MACD. Still south of the yellow line, but very short bars on the histogram. Getting a little bit of a flattening out on the RSI, close to the 40 mark. We'd like to see it pick back up and not dip down towards this 30 as per usual. ELF still showing a little bit of negative momentum here. Very short candle for the day. Starting to diverge a little further from the yellow line on the MACD, getting slightly longer bars on the histogram here, though we have flattened out near the 50 mark on the RSI, so we should see some consolidation at very least. If it consolidates down into this corner, that'd be fine, and it can then break above this downtrend line. So we'll be waiting to see what it does in the next few days. Poet finally gotten out of this downtrend line, but it looks like it's tracking to the uptrend line here. Now that we're out of the downtrend, we have a good large wide channel to trade in for positive gains. Though we are still south of the yellow line on the MACD, we've got some very short bars on the histogram. Again, angling down just underneath the 50 line, touching off near the 40 actually. And we want to see it bounce, get back to that 50 line for some positive news. And lastly, QuantStamp showing a little bit of an uptrend today. It looks like the MACD is coming up to test that yellow line, and the histogram is trying to cross over, angling up on this RSI towards that 50 line. We want to see it break through that, continue northwards. Now, for full disclosure, I had holdings in some Sonum, but I sold them out today, and I am waiting for QuantStamp to drop down to that 3,000 Satoshi mark so I can pick up some more of those. In the next couple of days, expect to see a full review on the QuantStamp protocol. And so if you like this video, go ahead and click that thumbs up, share it with your friends, re-steam it on Steam. Go ahead and click that subscribe button, and to get an update as soon as I launch this QuantStamp review, you can go ahead and click the notification bell. And if you are on Steam, go ahead and follow me. I'll follow you back. And that'll be the end of the day market update. This has been Chris from hashrelay.net, and as always, I'll talk to you later.